is dependent on him. Let us pray. Gracious and loving God, we thank you for this day and for this opportunity to gather as the Association of Caribbean Higher Education Administrators. We thank you for the gift of education and for the privilege of serving our students, faculty, staff, and communities. We thank you for the diversity and richness of our cultures, languages, and traditions, and for the bonds of friendship and collaboration that unite us as a region. We ask you to bless this conference and all who participate in it. Inspire us with your wisdom and guidance as we share our experiences, challenges, and best practices. Help us to learn from each other and to support each other in our common mission of advancing higher education in the Caribbean. Grant us the courage and creativity to face the opportunities and challenges of a changing world and to respond to the need and aspiration of our people. We also ask you to bless our keynote speakers, presenters, moderators, and organizers, and to fill them with your grace and spirit. May they enlighten us with their insights, challenge us with their questions, and inspire us with their vision. May they also feel our appreciation and gratitude for their contributions to this conference and to our association. And finally, O Lord, we ask you to bless our association and its members, and to strengthen our commitment and service to higher education in the Caribbean. May we also work together in harmony and solidarity, and may we always seek your will and your glory in all that we do. We pray in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Dr. Young. I now call on our president, Mrs. Mavette Facey Thompson, to deliver some remarks.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I'd like to just acknowledge the salutations that have already been given by our chair of the local chapter, but I want to especially thank Professor Winston Moore for taking the time to be with us this morning. Delegates and presenters, moderators, chair of the LOC and the LOC members, hardworking team, I must say. I don't want to single out anybody, but Kim, Antonia, Allison Johnson, you know, we really appreciate the work that you've put in so far. I want to also acknowledge our executive members that are here. It's a long list, so I will not take the time to go through that list today. But I'd also like to acknowledge two persons that are not here this morning because of other circumstances, and that's Lucretia Gordon-Brideson, who is our chapter chair in Jamaica, and Mrs. Florence Francis, who is a treasurer. It gives me great pleasure to warmly welcome you on behalf of the ACIA executive to Barbados and to the Association of Caribbean Higher Education Administrators 21st Annual Conference, being held under the theme Future-proofing the higher education ecosystem, the administrator's perspective. And we know that we need to future-proof more than anything else, because as a Caribbean people, we're very resilient. We've gone through Hurricane Beryl recently, and I just pray that our colleagues in Barbados, you know, that you fared fairly well, and if not, that you'll bounce back very quickly. I also bring warm greetings to all delegates from Mrs. Gloria Barrett Sobers, founder of this prestigious and resilient association. Mrs. Sobers asked that her congratulations be conveyed to ACIA on hosting its 21st annual conference, and best wishes to all delegates. We were remiss earlier, but may I just take this opportunity? We lost a ACIA stalwart, a past president of ACIA, Dr. Gillian Paul. Could we just observe a minute of silence? Can you just stand? Thank you. Thank you very much. We just want to express our gratitude to Dr. Paul posthumously in recognition of her stalwart work to the association. And if you turn through the booklet, the program, you would see our tribute to Dr. Paul. Our ACIA conference consistently draws a diverse group of esteemed regional and international delegates. Your attendance here today underscores your commitment and dedication, not only to ACIA, but also to advancing higher education capacity, building both regionally and internationally. We are grateful for your continued support, especially in these challenging economic times. But ACIA remains steadfast in offering excellent opportunities for networking and dynamic collaborations. And I am confident that this year's conference will be no exception. Delegates, the theme of this year's conference was not chosen lightly. If we are to leverage the rapidly evolving technology, we must take a balanced approach, and we must harness the capabilities of the technologies while emphasizing ethics and the preservation of essential human insights. This reality calls for a broader movement in higher education. Administrators are now required to integrate digital tools and AI to enhance learning and operational efficiency, while continuing to ensure effective leadership and a culture of innovation, which are key in navigating change. ACIA remains dedicated to promoting effective higher education administration, as highlighted by our strategic plan for 2022 to 2027. And its tagline is leading through impact by fostering professionalism and teamwork lift. The executive team is fully committed to achieving the objectives of this strategic plan, ensuring the ongoing viability of the association and making your involvement with ACIA meaningful and rewarding. It would be remiss of me not to mention and thank our sponsors of our conference this year: UWITV Global, Sagicor General, Republic Bank, and Barbados Tourism Marketing, Inc. I just want to mention to you a couple seconds our ACIA charity program. It's a program that has been designed to give back. We made some awards this year. We have awarded three schools and individuals. You'll hear more about that a little later. And we cannot do these, give these grants without your help. So we're asking you to contribute to the ACIA charity program. So on behalf of ACIA again, welcome. We are excited to host you on the beautiful Caribbean island of Barbados. Thank you.
Madam President, as always, you make us proud. Our next item is a cultural piece in fact, two cultural pieces. One is spoken word, and the second is song. Also like to make an appeal to staff, could a member of staff for the conference, or please see me. Okay, I see that you're fanning. We'll take care of this in a very short while. Okay. Okay. Our spoken word presenter is Mr. Kimrick Harrison. Mr. Harrison was educated at the Princess Margaret Secondary School before becoming a trained teacher at the Eardiston Teachers Training College. It was at the training college that Mr. Kimrick developed the love for and the use of language to stimulate the minds of individuals. He has written 4 books of comedy, 3 books of poetry on love, AIDS, attitudes of children, and a novel which reflects the experience of a typical tourist visiting the island. Mr. Harrison has performed at comedy shows in Trinidad and Tobago, St. Lucia, and at the Nazareth Hall in New York. Mr. Kimrick performed in 3 of the several calypso tents on the island and has written songs for several calypsonians. He also served as a calypso judge for 4 consecutive years. His greatest satisfaction was when his song won a crown in Boston. Locally, with a presentation of Culture Gone, which he penned, Lady Anne became the first female calypsonian to reach the finals in the national competition. With that, I introduce Mr. Kimrick.
Good morning. I'm so much into comedy, I almost said good evening. No, I want to say I'm thankful for the opportunity to do this for you. So with gratitude, I'm going to produce one called Attitude. It goes like this. She called my attitude into question. Child, why don't you pay attention? Because of your attitude in class, in every subject you come in last. For me, life was one big joke. I even used to hide and smoke. Talk about stupid and carefree, doing anything silly, that was me. Then one day my teacher came and started to play with us a game. He separated the letters in attitude, A-T-T-I-T-U-D-E. Then he told us what to do. Each letter has a position in the alphabet. Count with me, tell me what you get. A is number 1, so write 1 down. 20 for T, now continue on. Take your time, no mistakes. Write the position of all 8. Add them up, find their sum. It's 100 when you're done. This tells the story of one's attitude. It needs no explaining to me or you. Just make sure that in life you give an attitude that is 100% positive. Okay, this second one is also taken from my book, Our Children, Our Future. And it says, be careful. A friend of mine got pregnant while she was still at school. Constantly warned by her parents, her reaction was, he's cool. Every evening she came home late, claiming she had extra work to do. Love in the classroom, she would admit. And her fellow encouraged it too. From that time, her life declined. Her schoolwork reached a low. It was just a matter of time before her stomach started to show. So said, so done, reproduction. She began to feel ashamed. She tried to ban the baby down. Her friends called her names. Under pressure, she collapsed. From school, she stayed away. After the baby, maybe perhaps she would grow back there. She tried but never made it back. She knew education was important, but so many things the baby lacked. It was hard as a single parent. Sweeping floors and making beds, she did some odds and ends. She often felt like she could dead on hearing her school bell ring. She grew. She saw her schoolmates from university graduate. The child father she now hates is married to one of them. Too often we are led astray. We let emotions run wild. Control yourself from today. A child should be a child. And I must give you this one because my forte is really comedy. I've written 4 joke books, and I love this one. Because as I came here, I saw a particular lady. She was looking at me. I thought to myself, well, she probably has eyes for me. I'm handsome after all. This one says, your eyes. I pretended I couldn't see how her eyes walked up and down on me. Out of the corner, she took a look. Something told me to stay put. Rolling around just like a ball. The white and them made a call. I got up and ventured near. I thought she had something to say. To my surprise, she didn't respond. My whole being felt so down. Just as I heaved one sigh, I realized she was cross-eyed. Thank you. I didn't want to go and then inject a little bit of humor into it, but I thank you so much for your applause and appreciation. Okay, sir. Good, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harrison. Okay. Our next presentation is from a very young and talented young man. His name is Jaden Innes. Jaden is 15 years old, and he's a music enthusiast. Jaden is a 4th form student at the Harrison's College and enjoys all genres of music. He discovered his passion for this art form at a young age and first entered Junior Monarch competition at 9 years old, placing second in his category. Jaden's love for music extends beyond singing and performing. He plays the drums and hones his skill at the Notes of Praise Academy. He currently plays the drums at his church, the St. Catherine Anglican Church, and at various functions. Hailing from the parish of St. Philip, Jaden has a big dream for his future in the soca arena. Alongside his musical ambition, he hopes to become an attorney. He is happy to be back this year in the competition for Crop Over's 50th anniversary. Junior Monarch, are you ready?
Good morning, good morning, good morning. You've been gone too long. I hope you come. Maybe you could just take a run away. Yeah, you can't miss this jam. If you're coming for crop over and you know touchdown, well, welcome home. We's family. We's family. Hold on, somebody. Welcome home. Fat energy. Good company. We celebrating 50. Beat a rhythm section like up here, ping, 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 pong. 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 Up here, ping, ping. I could be anywhere in this world, but I'd rather be here with you. In the flats, getting up and jumping up. Flying fish and cuckoo, always on the menu. Where you want a break from, jumping up. So go down oysters and get a taste. Patrons will give you that warm embrace. Down here we don't watch the face. So when you come, relax in the sun. Take a trip in the Zara van. It's crop over, get ready to jump. Well, welcome home. We's family. We's family. Hold on, somebody. Welcome home. Fat energy. Good company. We celebrating 50. Beat a rhythm section like up here, ping, ping. Up here, ping, 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 pong. Up here, ping, ping. Up here, ping, ping. Up here, ping, 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 pong. Up here, ping, ping. Up here, ping, ping. I hope you didn't get permission And you're coming on vacation to crop over the sweetest summer festival. We beating the road like steel pan. Getting up out in the session, we gon' jump up and wave and cause a bacchanal. You been gone too long, I hope you come. Maybe you could just take a run away. Yeah, you can't miss this jam. If you're coming for crop over and you know touchdown, come on. Well, welcome home. We family, we family. Hold on somebody. Welcome home. Vet energy, good company. We celebrating 50. Beat a rhythm section like up in your ping 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 pong. Up in your ping ping. Up in your ping 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 pong. Up in your ping ping. Up in your ping 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 pong. Up in your ping ping. Up in your ping ping. Come on, come on, come on. Up in your ping ping. Tell them. Up in your ping ping. 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 Well, welcome home. We family. We family. Hold on somebody. Welcome home. Fat energy. Good company. We celebrating 50. Beat a rhythm section like up in your people. 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 Thank you.
I often say that when people say that our future is in the hands of the young people, I really believe that. And I think that Calypso is in the hands of the young people. So let me thank Mr. Jaden. So the next item is we will have the keynote speaker, Professor Winston Moore. But I will ask Ms. Beverly Wood to introduce and welcome the speaker to the podium.
Hello, good morning. Dr. Thomas Edward, Chair, ACIA Barbados Chapter. Mrs. Margaret Faye C. Thompson, President, ACIA. Mrs. Camille Charles, Chair, ACIA Trinidad and Tobago Chapter. Professor Winston Moore, Deputy Principal, the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill Campus, and our keynote speaker. Dr. Kofi Nkrumah Young, International Liaison Officer, ACIA. Presenters, all participants present here and online, UWITV Global. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce Professor Winston Moore, an accomplished economist, academic, and administrator. He holds a PhD in economics from the University of Surrey, an MSc in economics from the University of Warwick, and a BSc in economics, the foundation of it all, from the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill campus. Professor Moore worked at the Central Bank of Barbados as a senior economist. In 2016, he was named the most outstanding economist by the Barbados Economic Society. At the Cave Hill campus, he introduced new modules, including industrial organization and health economics. That's when he came in 2008. He served here at the campus as head of the Department of Economics, director of the School for Graduate Studies and Research, and he's now the deputy principal. In 2008, he was named among one of the 60 of under 60 by the campus. Professor Moore is an outstanding author. He was lead author for the Barbados Green Economy Scoping Study, sponsored by the United Nations Environmental Program and conducted by the campus on behalf of the government of Barbados. He has written, oh my goodness, he has written several pieces of work, including works on tourism, agriculture, fishery, transport, housing, and he is also as you will soon find out, a very, very engaging lecturer. He has been invited to deliver lectures on issues surrounding development in small island states and has supported the work of international donors through his research. Professor Moore is interested in fostering relationships between the private sector and the academy, and he has done significant work in that area. And today we get to hear him as a lecturer. We get to hear how he applies his background, his training to helping us to understand sustainable strategies for modern higher education institutions. Professor Moore, your audience, please come.
Good morning, everyone, and permit me to adopt the already established protocol. I want to thank the conference organizers for inviting me to do this keynote address. The thanks are in a number of different ways. Thank you very much for getting me out of meetings the entire day. And as a professor, it's always great to have a captive audience that are not allowed to go anywhere until you're finished for a couple minutes as well. Now, I must give you a little bit of a warning. You invited a proponent of the dismal science to do your keynote address. So this will be a little bit tough to hear from time to time. But I'll try to bring it home, and I'll scatter a few jokes in between so that you're not all scared after the end of my lecture. So we'll have a good time together. Now, the whole idea of the sustainability of tertiary level institutions has been on the agenda of our higher education institutions for a number of years now. The notion of sustainability, however, is a little bit nuanced. There are many different aspects of sustainability. So permit me, if you will, to give you a little bit of background of the concept of sustainability and what I mean by sustainability in this lecture. I'm not going to stick to one single definition. I want to be multifaceted in terms of looking at this notion of sustainability. Now, in most higher education institutions, sustainability is largely linked to your financial statements, whether or not my revenue exceeds my expenditure. And if that is the case, we say that the entity is either making a small profit or breaking even. In most higher education institutions in the Caribbean, we'll be lucky if you're breaking even. So that is normally the case for us. Administrators in these institutions normally, therefore, have to place a lot of attention on our cash flows or income statements if we're going to utilize this notion of financial sustainability. Using this notion of financial sustainability, though, is a little bit short-sighted because higher education institutions were not formed to make a profit. We were formed to impact on society. So if our students go into the world and make an impact, that is when we can say that we're making an impact on society. So the notion of sustainability should move beyond just financial statements towards other concepts of sustainability, and hence why I have these other concepts on this slide. In fact, I did a lecture last year looking at the return on investment of the KPhil campus here in Barbados, and the number I came up with was a little bit startling. I was doing the calculations and I was saying, we're probably going to be breaking even in terms of our total societal return. But my calculations suggested that in terms of the return on investment, Caribbean governments were getting around $3.42 for every dollar they invested in the KPhil campus. Now, that takes into account not just the financial return, but that is also the impact on society. So people like me going into society, working in the central bank, sitting on boards, going into the hospital, and making a return on the investment that the governments of the region have placed in their young people. That is what that $3.42 means. It would be great to do a similar calculation for other higher education institutions in Barbados and across the entire region, but I suspect the number is going to be very similar in terms of our return on investment. Now, I'll therefore like to introduce a second concept of sustainability, and that's the whole notion of social sustainability building on that concept. And when we say social sustainability, we therefore mean the ability of higher education institutions to help individuals to begin to reflect on their ability to promote national, regional, and global social sustainability. So we therefore think about developing the holistic individual, an individual that can handle a number of moral dilemmas, that can go into society and really make an impact. That's what we mean by social sustainability. Now, there's a third element of sustainability that I tend to focus on in my research. I do a lot of research on the green economy, and this third element is called environmental sustainability. The notion of environmental sustainability, as you would suspect, looks at whether or not higher education institutions can assist regional governments, can assist their society to reduce the environmental impact of economic activity. We can also expand that to look at how the higher education institution itself can reduce its environmental footprint. And by reducing its environmental footprint, there are a number of really good things that come about as a result of that. First of all, as an economist, and you can see me smiling, the real benefit of enhancing or reducing your environmental footprint is that you start reducing your costs. And we've benefited from this at the Cave campus in Barbados, where as we started to look at the notion of energy efficiency, it has significantly reduced our energy bill on a monthly basis. And then we're also getting into the area of generating renewable energy, which is also another element of another revenue stream that the campus is hoping to obtain in the future. There's also a fourth element. Now, I couldn't ignore this concept at all. Usually when we talk about sustainability, you usually speak about economic, social, and environment, and that's where we stop. But given the trends that we've been seeing in terms of digital technologies over the last couple of years, I think we need a fourth pillar. And that fourth pillar is the notion of digital sustainability. And what do I mean by digital sustainability in higher education institutions? Digital sustainability is the ability of higher education institutions to keep up with the rapidly evolving technologies in relation to higher education institutions. The demands that our students put on us as higher education practitioners to have the facilities that they need, the facilities that they would require to make their learning experience a lot more enjoyable. So this would involve the access to online libraries, access to online software and platforms. For researchers working in these higher education institutions, we're also speaking about the software and the data that they might need access to as well in order to succeed in relation to their research endeavors. So we therefore have this sort of multifaceted framework in relation to sustainability, and this is the framework that I'm going to be utilizing. I'm also going to be interrogating this concept of the current model of higher education. Now, this current model of higher education, I've purposely put this model like this, whereby you can see it's a little bit uneven. And it's uneven because when we look at our financial statements, when we look at the revenue that we're obtaining relative to the expenditure, it's a little bit uneven in relation to the numbers. And you can see why that's the case. Most of us largely depend on maybe 2 income streams. We depend on tuition fees from students, and then some of us get some government subventions as well, and maybe a little bit of funds from donors as also into the mix. But then when you compare that to the expenditure, it's a lot higher. The largest expenditure number tends to be our wages and salaries, of course, but we also have some other really important categories in there, which I'm going to delve into a little bit later on, including the maintenance costs. Capital investment is really important if we're going to be speaking about the notion of sustainability as well. And this is the current model, and this is the model that I think we need to change if we're going to be speaking about a sustainable higher education institution in the future. Now, there are a couple key trends that I think are going to be impacting on higher education institutions in the region and also impacting on Caribbean economies. And therefore, I want to take a couple of minutes to speak about these key trends. And this is where it's going to start getting a little bit difficult. So hang in there with me, okay? This is the first difficult chart to look at. This is our population projections for the Caribbean. This is from the United Nations, and you can go on the website and you can download this data. And the United Nations projects that Caribbean populations will continue to rise up until 2050. But after that, you're going to see a leveling off in terms of populations and then a decline, actually. So between 2025 and 2050, the population will rise from 45 million to 47 million persons. Thereafter, the population is likely to contract to just 40 million persons by the end of the century. Now, this relatively slow rate of population growth is likely to be driven by a decline in the birth rate. And I usually tell my wife that this is usually her fault. We just have one child. And I did my part. I got a daughter, and she loves her father, but she didn't do her part. She doesn't have a child at the moment, so I feel really bad for her that she doesn't have a child, but I didn't, that wasn't my decision, that was her decision. And I'm not atypical. I think most persons in the region usually have maybe 1 or 2 children. My grandmother had 8 children, and I think that probably explains why the birth rate was so high at that time. But the birth rate in 2024 was just 17 births per 1,000 persons. And is likely to reach just 14 by 2050 and will drop to just 11 births per 1,000 persons by the end of the century. So these demographic trends are going to have a significant impact on higher education institutions. You know, one of the things we always like to brag about is that our enrollment has increased. Every single year we say enrollment has increased by 5%, by 10%. If the population within the Caribbean is falling, guess what's going to happen? You're going to start seeing a fall in enrollment in higher education institutions. So it's a trend that we will need to be cognizant of. And I'm going to speak about this and how we can address this issue a little bit later on in the presentation. And this is not just a trend that will impact on public higher education institutions, it will also impact on private higher education institutions as well, because as there's a fall in the population, there's also going to be an impact on the competition for places in these institutions, and the institutions are going to be competing against each other as well. So even if you're in the private sector, you're going to have to be competing against other private sector higher education institutions for the same smaller pool. This either means a reduction in your fees or a reduction in your revenue, one of the two. And I know we've also spoken a lot about maybe attracting students from around the globe, but guess what? Other countries around the globe are also facing the same trend as well. So we have this reduction in populations across the region. There's also another trend that I wanted to point out as well, and that is a trend in relation to the growth rate for the Caribbean. And we've been speaking about, well, I should say Caribbean economists have been speaking about the rate of growth within the region for a number of years. And this chart isn't very difficult to read. The line that is at the bottom, that is that's the rate of growth for the Caribbean. So the Caribbean is expected to grow at most by around 2% per year. And that's going to be the slowest rate of growth for any single region that the IMF made projections for. Some countries are going to experience a faster rate of growth, like Guyana. Some countries are going to experience a really slow rate of growth because of their population trends. I think Barbados is going to be in that area of slow growth because of our population trends. So those of you from Barbados, you're going to have to pay attention to the growth rate trends for the region. Now, looking at the other pillar or the other key trend that is impacting on the Caribbean and also impacting on higher education institutions is artificial intelligence. Obviously, you couldn't have a lecture for this topic coming up, right? Now, artificial intelligence is undoubtedly one of the biggest trends impacting on economies and impacting on higher education across the world. To give you an idea of the take-up rate of higher education, of artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, I think the most popular incarnation of AI, reached 100 million users in 60 days. It took, thank you so much, they gave me tissue to wipe the sweat. I feel like if I'm playing tennis, which I do every Thursday evening, so this is a good preparation for tennis. It took Facebook, sorry, not Facebook, there's the old platform. It took Instagram around 2.5 years to reach 100 million users. So the take-up rate for ChatGPT was of the order of magnitudes higher and larger than that for any other technology that we would have seen before. Now, this artificial intelligence is going to have significant impacts on the global economy. I know we're speaking a lot about the economic impact, but let me just, sorry about the labor market impact, let me give you the numbers in relation to the economic impact that we're going to see as a result of artificial intelligence. McKinsey Global predicts that by 2030, 70% of companies will be using some type of AI technology, with nearly half of all large companies employing a full range of AI technologies. This is expected to add around 14 percentage points to global growth by 2030. So this is going to be a significant shift in terms of economic trends. A lot of the discussion in the media speaks about the loss of jobs. And that loss of jobs is largely what economists call the displacement effect, whereby those lower order jobs are going to be taken over by AI technologies. But guess what? There are also going to be two other areas that you don't hear about in the media, and those are the productivity effect and also the reinstatement effect. And so the productivity effect is the effect that AI is likely to have on the world of work. So for me, I find that artificial intelligence helps me. It's almost like having a personal assistant on the computer. I can say, go do something while I focus on the higher order activities. And that's the benefit of having artificial intelligence in the workplace. You're also going to see a number of new jobs coming into the workplace as a result of artificial intelligence. And these new jobs are going to be potentially offset the job losses that we see as a result of the displacement effect as well. So the overall impact of AI on the labor market is really up in the air as yet. We don't quite know, but it will be one of those key trends impacting on the labor market going forward in the future. It will obviously, therefore, be one of those trends that we have to take account of as higher education practitioners. Now let's look at what these trends are going to have, what are going to be the implications of these trends for higher education institutions in the Caribbean. What I did is sort of like a SWOT analysis of these trends and how they're going to impact on the region, and what are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that we need to take into account as higher education administrators. And the first area, the first strength that I wanted to point out are the existence of accreditation councils in most Caribbean countries. Now, I listed them out here. We have a plethora of accreditation authorities within the Caribbean. We have the Caribbean Accreditation Authority for Education in Medicine and Other Health Professionals, the Antigua and Barbuda National Accreditation Board, the National Accreditation Equivalence Council of Bahamas, the Barbados Accreditation Council, the Grenada National Accreditation Board, the Grenada Medical and Dental Council, the National Accreditation Council of Guyana, the University Council of Jamaica, St. Kitts and Nevis Accreditation Secretariat, the Caribbean Area Network for Quality Assurance in Tertiary Education, and the Accreditation Council of Trinidad and Tobago, among others. Now, if I was looking at all of these accreditation councils that we have in the region, there's one thing that pops out at me in relation to this. Maybe we could start working together. There is some benefit of working together given that we're all trying to achieve the same objective. But these accreditation agencies also provide an aspect of strength for the region, for the higher education institutions in the region, because every cycle they assess these higher education institutions to see whether or not they're ready for change. So I know we have a number of them, but they're doing some really good work. And these accreditation institutions look at the quality assurance process, they look at regulation and oversight, they promote continuous improvement, and therefore they tell us that our degrees within the region are very legitimate because of the quality assurance process that they have to go through as part of the accreditation process. So this makes our higher education institutions ready for change, ready to be sustainable going forward in the future. Closely associated, with these accreditation agencies is the notion of quality assurance. Within every one of our higher education institutions, we either have a quality assurance office or we have an overworked quality assurance officer. And that overworked quality assurance officer is at a minimum looking at the systems for monitoring and evaluation. They're promoting continuous improvement. They're looking at maintaining standards and guidelines. And they're looking at all of these trends and saying, we need to make changes in these particular areas. There's also a long history of collaboration between higher education institutions in the region. And this also allows us, this is a strength that can help us to become a lot more sustainable. If you can work together, you can be a lot more sustainable. I'll give you a couple of illustrations, but we all use the CXC, or many of us use CXC as a common entry criteria, but we're also planning to work together through the rollout of the Caribbean Vocational Qualifications, the CARICOM Qualifications Framework, as well as a number of different areas. So this collaboration that already exists could be a really strong foundation for encouraging sustainability within the region. Now, while many higher education institutions within the region focus mainly on teaching, in doing so, we actually have built up some knowledge products on the way to doing that. So most higher education institutions have a bank of knowledge products. Well, knowledge products, the definition that I'm using here would be some knowledge about the way of doing things. So for example, understanding the plants and flora and fauna that we have in the Caribbean. As part of our teaching process, sometimes we accumulate knowledge in that area. And that knowledge, those knowledge products can then be monetized to provide another stream of income. So rather than focusing just on teaching, we therefore have a potential third pillar that we can focus on to develop income. And this is where you're going to see my talk going. The potential of higher education institutions to become retailers of not just higher education services, but become retailers of knowledge products. That, to me, is the future of higher education within the Caribbean. There are, however, a couple of weaknesses that we need to be cognizant of within the region. The first one is the financial sustainability of higher education institutions. Due to cutbacks starting from the financial crisis in 2008 and then the COVID-19 pandemic, most higher education institutions are at best breaking even or more than likely making losses. This has had significant implications for these higher education institutions. It means that the equipment is being utilized well past its useful life. And by utilizing the equipment beyond its useful life, you then have, unfortunately, higher maintenance costs. So it's sort of like an unvirtuous cycle. You try to cut back on costs, but it leads to even greater costs. You then have this, because you're not doing capital investment, you also have the emergence of sick building syndrome. So every few weeks you have a colleague saying, okay, I can't work in my office because it has a strange smell, maybe the roof is leaking. All of these things come about due to underinvestment in the plant. And this has been one of the implications of the cutbacks that we've seen as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the financial crisis that we had in 2008. Unfortunately, given the growth numbers that I showed you earlier, that this trend is unlikely to change. There are several opportunities, though, that I would like to point out that could emerge as a result of the big trends that I identified earlier. So this is where you start having a smile on your face now, after I gave you all of the bad news. So the first trend or the first opportunity that I want to point out is the opportunity to partner with the private sector to bring new professional programs and to cultivate intellectual property and reduce costs using renewable energy products. Now, with the reduction in student numbers, partnering with the private sector to offer training programs for both current and future employees can be a potential opportunity for diversifying your educational services. So yes, you're seeing a reduction in your traditional student numbers, but then you can, if you're focusing more on the professional side of the market, that can potentially offset the reduction in revenue that you're seeing from that side of things. Such partnerships can also provide some experiential learning opportunities for our students as well. One of the things that you can do as a higher education institution is that you can provide to your private sector partners, your students, to go into that institution to help them solve a problem. And we do this at the University of West Indies, Cave Hill, with our data analytics students. We have partnerships with firms in the private sector, and we give them teams every summer. And those teams go into the organization, and we tell them, give the students a problem. And those students are responsible for solving that problem using everything that they learned at the University of West Indies. And I think that is one of the areas, that's one of the benefits that the private sector can see through partnership with the universities and with higher education institutions. And it is also an area that can also emerge with other higher education institutions. I know, for example, in Barbados, the Samuel Jackman Prescott Institute of Technology works very closely with one of our electric vehicle dealers to help in terms of repair and training, and also looking into new battery technologies as well. So there's a lot of opportunities both at from the vocational level all the way up to the university level for higher education to impact on the private sector. Our higher education institutions can also use our private sector partners to leverage those intellectual property assets that they have. So if you have this database of how to best utilize plants in the Caribbean, how to develop new products, guess what? The individuals in the higher education institution are not the best persons to start selling that product to the market. I don't know about putting a product in a supermarket, but my private sector partner knows about how best to do that. So essentially what you can do is have these licensing arrangements with the private sector where you sell your knowledge products to them, and then they're responsible for getting that product and bringing that product to market. And that therefore presents another potential revenue stream for higher education institutions. One of the benefits of this diversification of income streams is that it also would allow higher education institutions to reduce class sizes. And essentially, we used to try to get as many people into the organization as possible so that we can boost our revenue. But if you are increasing the number of pillars, increasing the number of revenue pillars, it therefore allows you to, move away from just student numbers and start focusing on quality and start focusing on what maybe these students might want when they enter the job market or when they start doing business. And we've seen a number of benefits from having smaller classrooms. I'm speaking to a room of higher education administrators, so you know the numbers very well. So the performance of these students not improve when you reduce the class size, but the thing that I found particularly interesting was that their performance not only improved in that particular class, but their performance improved in other classes in the future as a result of reducing the class size. So we can see some real significant benefits as higher education practitioners simply by reducing the class size. There are a couple of threats, though, that I still have to flag as we look and as we try to build the sustainability of higher education institutions. The first, obviously, is the local and regional demographic trends, which we spoke about earlier. As mentioned earlier, the Caribbean is also likely to be one of the slowest growing regions over the next 20 years, and therefore the management of these higher education institutions to diversify their revenue streams will become more important. It's also very important for us to be cognizant of the trends in relation to climate change. I think the Hurricane Beryl last week provided a really good illustration of the future for the Caribbean, unfortunately. We're not going to see an increase in the number of storms, but we'll see an increase in the intensity of storms. And I have some bad news. So even though you might not be impacted by that storm, so Barbados was lucky to just be, a storm passed to the south of Barbados. But because of the damage that that storm caused to our brothers and sisters in Eastern Caribbean and our brothers and sisters in Jamaica and other Caribbean islands, our insurance premiums are going to go up in Barbados the following year. So as higher education practitioners, even though you might not be impacted by a storm, your insurance premiums are still going to go up. And this is something that we will need to take into account. One of the threats emerging as a result of climate change. Another really important threat is the threat faced by cybersecurity. As higher education institutions, we hold a treasure trove of data for hackers. We have in our databases students' ID numbers, we have their personal data, and sometimes we have some data on their parents as well, sitting within our databases. And this will become a significant target, or it is already a significant target for hackers, but we will have to spend a significant amount of money trying to shore up our systems from these potential attacks that we're seeing on a regular basis. So what are the strategic responses that we need to put in place as higher education practitioners? So based on the SWOT analysis that I did earlier, I'm proposing a rebalancing of the scale in relation to higher education within the Caribbean. Something that is a lot more sustainable from economic, social, environmental, and digital perspective. Thank you very much. So my first principal strategic response is that higher education institutions should begin to see themselves as retailers of knowledge products. This would allow them to leverage their portfolio of knowledge products to produce alternative revenue streams and offset the potential effects of falling student numbers. Through partnerships with the private sector, these institutions can develop knowledge products that can benefit not just the partner institution, but also the university as well. Higher education institutions can also leverage the focus on environmental sustainability. Now, every single Caribbean island has environmental sustainability as part of their strategic plan. Every single firm has environmental sustainability as part of their strategic plan. It therefore provides us an opportunity to work with these entities to help them achieve their objectives. If we are teaching our students how to deal with this issue of sustainability, why can't we develop some products, some revenue streams that can help our governments, that can help firms also reduce their environmental footprint as well, and develop a third pillar of revenue based on that. So our lecturers or our teachers no longer should be seen as just individuals that teach classes. They should be seen as individuals that work very closely with the private sector and government to develop this revenue stream. Now, quite fortuitously, yesterday I had a meeting with a colleague from a university in Spain, and he introduced his university as an entrepreneurial university. That means that the academics at that institution, yes, they're teaching the concept of entrepreneurship, but they're also helping entrepreneurs to develop their businesses. They're helping government to develop entrepreneurial policies. They're working with donor agencies to help develop entrepreneurship around the entire world. So they've sort of changed their model of the traditional university, rather than just focusing on degrees or associate degrees or certificates. They've now focused on this concept of entrepreneurship, and it's provided another revenue pillar for that university. That university is not going to see those falling student numbers I mentioned earlier, because their market is not students. As we typically defined it, their market is actually entrepreneurs. And using that different definition for students, it provides them with the opportunity for sustainability going forward in the future. And that is what I mean by building sustainability based on the frameworks that you have available, based on the strengths that you have available. Now, in order to leverage these knowledge products that we have in higher education institutions, we need to form knowledge transfer offices. This is one of the areas where I think we haven't done a really good job of within the Caribbean as yet. Knowledge transfer offices allow higher education institutions to tell the market, hey, I have a knowledge product. Are you interested in working with me on this particular product? These knowledge transfer offices can also go into private enterprises and say, tell me about the new products you want to develop. And then I would get my tutors, I would get my students, I would get my lecturers to help you develop those products. And then I can sell those back to you, I could lease those back to you using some type of assignment arrangement. Now, that is a different model than what we are traditionally accustomed to. That knowledge transfer office can now become a revenue center for higher education institutions. Unfortunately, if you're going to have a knowledge transfer office, it requires that knowledge transfer office to be staffed with lawyers, to be staffed with specialists in grant writing, to be staffed with specialists in innovation. And given the financial challenges that I mentioned earlier, it's unlikely that we'll be able to do this at every single institution within the Caribbean. So what we need to do is potentially work together on the development of these knowledge transfer offices. They're a key pillar. Most larger universities have a knowledge transfer office, and it is a key part of the revenue generation. MIT, their knowledge transfer office, MIT Labs, generates a significant amount of revenue for that university. And a similar thing can be done for higher education institutions if we just work together. It makes no sense having a knowledge transfer office in every single institution. We can maybe have it maybe at the country level, or maybe at the sectoral level. Maybe all of the community colleges can have one office. Maybe all the vocational and training schools would have one office. Maybe all of the universities would have one office. Whatever the case may be, but we need to work together to develop these offices. We're not going to develop that pillar of retailing our knowledge products unless we have a knowledge transfer office within our universities. And then finally, we can also boost the sustainability of higher education institutions by leveraging the benefits of smaller classrooms. I spent most of my career before I was made an administrator for my sins within the classroom. And you spent most of the semester simply trying to get through the material. And the students were struggling to keep up. You as a lecturer, sometimes you were a little bit bored because you would have done this a couple of years. But with a smaller classroom, you now can become a little bit more innovative. You can teach individual students. And when those students leave the classroom, guess what? They're more prepared. They already have ideas to start a business. They already have ideas to when they go into the organization to really make a change. And these are the type of students that would really make an impact on society. And that is that's the aspect of social sustainability that I mentioned a little bit earlier. And that's the benefit of having smaller classrooms as well. It allows us to build out the social sustainability of higher education institutions. So colleagues, the sustainability of tertiary education institutions, particularly in the Caribbean, therefore hinges on this multifaceted approach that integrates the economic, social, environmental, and digital dimensions of sustainability. These institutions must transition from the traditional model, which I have highlighted earlier, to a model which sees them move from just the provider of educational services to a diversified entity that produces a wide array of knowledge products. By doing so, they can secure their financial viability in the midst of economic cycles and declining demographics. The accreditation and quality assurance mechanisms that we have within the region provide a strong foundation for maintaining standards and adapting to emerging trends, ensuring that institutions remain relevant and competitive. Furthermore, leveraging partnerships with the private sector can unlock new revenue streams, facilitate the commercialization of intellectual property, and enhance the quality of education through experiential learning opportunities. Investment in digital sustainability is paramount. Embracing artificial intelligence and other digital technologies will not only streamline operations, but also prepare students for the demands of the modern workforce. This requires a concerted effort to redesign our curricula, integrate technology into teaching and learning, and foster digital literacy. Environmental sustainability must also be a priority. By adopting green initiatives, which you can read about in many of my papers, higher education institutions can reduce operational costs, contribute to national and regional sustainability. Engaging students and staff in these initiatives can also further embed a culture of sustainability within the institution and broader community. Addressing the challenges posed by demographic trends, economic pressures, and climate change will require innovative strategic responses, and institutions must diversify their income streams, enhance their resilience, protect against cybersecurity. The formation of collaborative knowledge transfer offices can facilitate the commercialization of research and foster partnerships that drive innovation. Ultimately, the sustainability of higher education institutions in the Caribbean depends on the ability to adapt and innovate. By embracing a holistic approach to sustainability, these institutions can continue to fulfill their mission of improving lives through education while contributing to the social, economic, environmental, and digital well-being of their communities. It's through this comprehensive and forward-thinking strategy that higher education in the Caribbean can thrive and remain a vital force for development in the region. Thank you very much.
Professor Moore has taken us back to the classroom. Professor Moore has challenges. He has presented us with a broad range of issues. He performed the SWOT analysis. He challenged us as administrators to examine what he has given us. And during our discourse here, over the next 3 days, that we try to answer at least some of those questions. I would like now to call Mrs. Camille Charles to make a presentation to Prof. I know that the room is extremely hot. I have been informed that efforts have been made to resolve the issue. Camille? Yes. Prof?
Professor, we really appreciated your presentation, your expertise, and you really will help us as we plan for the future and deal with digital transformation and all that comes with it. And so we would like to offer you 2 presentations. The first is a painting by one of our Bajan young artists.
Thank you.
And the title of this artwork is Bridging for the Future. All right? And so it's a total representation of what you presented to us today.
Great. Thank you so much.
In addition,
Take some pictures.
sure. In addition, and since I'm the chapter chair from Trinidad and Tobago, we must bring something to you from Trinidad and Tobago. So our colleagues, we would like to offer you this book entitled Son of Grace, and it's a biography from Frank Worrell. And of course, our local journalist, Ms. Benisha Bash, is the author of this publication. So we really would like you to appreciate it, because I know you're a cricket guy as well.
Yeah,
so all the best to you.
Thank you so much. It is now my responsibility to do a vote of thanks. And after, I will do some housekeeping. Prof. Moore, like our president said, we are very pleased, we are very happy that you accepted our invitation to be our keynote speaker. In no measure have you disappointed us. You have given us much to work with, and you have given us much, like I said, to engage our intellectual acumen over the next couple of days. To our president, Mrs. Marvet Facey Thompson, who delivered some remarks. Mrs. Thompson has led our organization over the last couple of years, and she has done a remarkable job. Actually, I'm making a little picture, so you'll see when it comes in later during the day. To Dr. Kofi Nkrumah Young. Dr. Young is one of the stalwarts of this organization. He has been with this organization going way back when, and he has brought a measure of stability, knowledge, and direction to the organization. So I would like to say thank you, Dr. Young, for bringing the invocation. Miss Beverly Wood, who read the citation for the keynote speaker. Miss Beverly Wood likes to be in the background. But being in the background is not hiding. Being in the background is working. Miss Wood is a worker. Over the last couple of months, we have been working to get this thing together. And I know that Miss Wood has been working, and she put her hand up whenever she has been called. So Miss Wood, thank you very much. There is one gentleman who is somewhere in the back. He has asked me not to mention him, but Adrian, I cannot honor your request. Adrian has worked on this LOC, the Local Organizing Committee. Adrian I said I was the chief cook and bottle washer. Adrian is the chief cook and bottle washer. Adrian handles everything. He knows everything. So I would like to say a special thanks to the LOC, every member, and also to Adrian. With respect to the LOC, I must say, sometimes in life, you meet some bad people. Sometimes in life, you meet some very good people. And I'm very proud and honored to have met a group of very good people. Very hardworking, very committed. And when I sleep, they would catch me. Thank you very much, LOC. Professor Moore spoke about finance and sustainability. We have finance and sustainability issues also. UWITV, Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc., Republic Bank, Sagicor. These are our sponsors. I want to say thank you to all of them. I want to also add that some of them came at the very last minute. And it would be remiss of me not to say a special thank to all of those sponsors. The hotel, Accra Beach Hotel. I know that you're complaining it's a little hot, but Accra Beach Hotel, short of bending and breaking, they have bent backwards, bent forwards. They have accommodated us in every way possible. I want to say thank you to the events team and to the accommodation team. So Accra Hotel, thank you very much. Right, so some housekeeping. I just got this note. Green Swift X6592, red SA 5244. Please see Miss Antonia who is walking out towards the door. She will guide you as to what the matter is. Okay. I want you to note that we have some artisans outside selling the wares. We have some very young and dynamic, upcoming creative minds. They want you to see and purchase what Barbados has to offer, what the creative minds can do. They are right outside, so I would like that during your coffee break, you please patronize them. The next session, okay, so we now have a break, and our next session would be concurrent sessions, and the concurrent sessions would be held in this room, the Chiron, and we go upstairs. There are 2 rooms upstairs, and that would be the Liana East and the Liana West. We have a presentation by Mr. Winrock, another one by Mr. Selwyn Bajan, and a third one by Dr. Diana Gobbin and Dr. Hector Edwards. Of course, if you have any challenges finding those rooms, we are here to assist you. With this, I invite you to break for coffee. And please, before you come back into whatever room,